Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Ready podcast, and we're on to the next episode. So, without further ado, let me just talk about a few things. First off, this is a really great episode, and it talks about a lot of things that I believe a lot of people don't really talk about at all. Maybe have in the back of their head, but don't ever really consider. So, it's a really, really great episode to really open up the first season. Excuse me, second season. Wow, I can't even think today. Anyways, so it's going to be a fantastic episode, and I hope you really enjoy it as much as I did making it. It was fantastic and awesome as always. So, without further ado, let us get into the next episode of Get Ready. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast of Get Ready. I'm here once again to go over the results, I guess, of what I talked about in the last episode. Kind of just going over a few things, and what I just I brought my brother back on.
Sanao his Antone.
And we're just here just to kind of go over like a bit of things that we like to kind of I guess to talk about.
The band council election results.
Basically, yeah. So anyways,
after a month of bitterness and
maybe you, not
anger
me,
and-
not me.
oh, it's like it took a month to get this out, so we were probably thinking, what happened?
He closed the podcast because he was so angry. It's like, no, truth is, I just took a little bit of time off, but I'm back, and this is the podcast to bring all the podcast.
I'm the first three-peat guest.
Basically, yeah. So right
that's-
now you hold
yeah.
it. You hold the title.
I held the title.
I might have to get somebody on just to be. No, just kidding. Anyways, so basically, very unprofessional. We don't have the list of people, but we don't really need to go over it. It's just to say right now, of course, congratulations to everybody
Yes,
who won.
congratulations.
And everybody who went in. I think it was a great turnout. I honestly think that was a lot of people that came out for the all-night election.
I don't think so. I think it was probably par for the course. Well, I think we talked about this in the last election, that the amount of people who vote typically in band council elections across the country in First Nations communities averages 35 to 40%. Like, it is the lowest turnout elections in the entire country
Yeah.
out of like at any level of government. So I think our base of support was probably in the 60% of people who don't typically vote,
Well,
or the people who, at least everyone who I know, they never vote in these elections, and that's why we didn't do that well.
I mean,
Probably.
true.
Should we talk about how well we did? Like,
Yeah, I guess might as well. I mean, my total was 66 votes total.
my vote was 33, and just as a frame of reference, out of the top 10 people
Yep.
who got in, the lowest was about 142 in it. We don't have the
Yeah.
numbers right in front of us, but I'm almost certain it was about 142 was the number 10th place of the person of the band council. So you could see significantly lower.
Yeah.
Even if you combined our votes, it would still be just like a little over half. So yeah, 66-33. I'm still like, well, you had. I mean, I think the main reason is because you're kind of out in the community a lot too, because you have your job and everything.
Yeah.
So a lot of people know you, whereas people don't know who I am.
You mean you might have been a throwaway vote?
I think so.
Or if
Probably.
people were like, I'll go for him. Who's the 12th? I don't know. I guess Son of Whack, and they put it in there.
Probably just other Antones. Well, he's an Antone. And they just put that in there.
Yeah. Let's get him in there.
Yeah, just like, who the heck should be my number 10? Or is it 12?
I think it's 12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't even get that right.
It's like, oh, pay attention.
yeah.
But yeah.
No,
so,
to be fair though, like we weren't. Oh, well, like, congratulations to everybody. It's
Yeah,
well
yeah,
deserved,
Of course.
And I'm sure, hopefully they will do well.
I hope so as well.
But like we have to kind of contend with the realities of these elections. I'm perfectly happy to go on record of how I honestly feel about the entire process. It might be controversial with your listeners. It's not that I don't believe in having band council elections.
Yeah.
It's actually exciting just because I'm a big fan of elections. Like the Pakistani election just took place yesterday, I think, and that
Yeah.
was actually really exciting. The guy that got it is anti-NATO and anti-drone strikes. So naturally, America's already trying to say, well, it was rigged, which is a bunch of no, it's nonsense. It was like that's absolute nonsense. The guy
Yeah,
just
yeah.
that won, was just really popular. But see, like that's why I said because I'm kind of a nerd for that kind of thing. I actually think it's kind of fun to have band council elections. But that aside, we have to look at the realities of what is. So, um, like, how useful is it really to have it? Like, how much does it really truly affect how things change and how much they don't? And I have answers for these, or at least I have theories.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that you'll honestly hear from a lot of people. They'll say that, well, what difference does it make who we vote in? We're still going to be on a reserve. We're still going to be oppressed.
Like
and
half the res is still gonna be living in poverty.
still going to be living in poverty. You know,
Yeah,
still.
still gonna have all these issues.
It's
that are
not like
still on
we.
there.
It's not like we're truly sovereign in the way that we can't write laws that are specific to First Nations people because they frequently get overwritten by colonial judiciary systems. Like for instance, you know, like recently, like in I think it's Ganawage. They ruled. They had a law specifically pertains to their community, their nation,
Yeah.
and the Quebec government Quebec court went right in there and said you can't do that, and just threw it out. So it's like, well, what's the damn point then? What's the point of having any of these stupid elections anyway if that's the case? And it's the same thing with in Six Nations. You know, there's a lot of convoluted cigarette laws because cigarettes are viewed as a luxury, and there's a lot of taxes and things that
Yeah, come along with
that
making
come
them,
along in
producing
it.
them and
Yeah.
everything, yeah.
So in Six Nations, they have a lot of trouble selling their cigarettes outside of the community, even getting the cigarettes to other communities to sell. And because they're like, well, that's contraband or that's illegal. It's not illegal because they actually go through the whole process. They get fully licensed. It's not some kind of rogue operation. Like it's a operation that they actually set up, and then government just says, well, we rewrote the cigarette laws, and the cigarette laws that they've rewritten specifically affect smaller, I'm using the quotation marks, the smaller business
Yeah.
to kind of protect the big business.
Yeah.
But it's like there's not really any smaller cigarette producers outside of Six Nations, so it was almost like a law specifically attacking them. Now, how you feel about cigarettes, whether how you feel about Six Nations, you know, whether or not regardless of how you feel about any of that stuff,
Yeah.
like that just completely shows the sort of racist white supremacist colonial mentality of the people ruling above us, that they give us these elections to have fun with. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of truth to that because, like, I mean, come on, 2 years. What's it? What's anybody gonna do in 2 years? And not to mention the fact that what if what if the chief changes? What if the counselors change and everything they were? Let's say they worked for a bunch of stuff for 2 years. Like they just planned it to get it ready because this stuff takes time. The next people could just come over and push it off the table and say, "Well, here's what I'm gonna do," and then it just repeats. And I think that cycle constantly repeats every single reserve or nation that you look at. It's all going to be the same, where it's just like I said, you just build it up and then it gets pushed off the table. It gets built up and pushed off the table. Like it's no one's ever on the same page with the other person.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't mean to well, we'll get to that later. I'm going to specifically talk about but just as the complete system is built as it was designed to disenfranchise us.
Yeah.
Like that's essentially what the system is. There's the quote, and I don't know specifically who said this, like their name,
Yeah.
but the line is, the system isn't broke, it was built this way. And that's exactly what sums up the government, the institutional government systems as it pertains to First Nations people.
Yeah.
Like it was built to do this, you know, for us to constantly be at each other's throat, to constantly be arguing over pennies, When we should be given dollars because so much in our treaties talk about resources, and every one of them have been broken.
Yep. Yeah.
So there's just a lot of nonsense like that. Like in the last one, I talked about very vaguely. I talked about socialism and how much if we move in that direction, we as a community could prosper. But we've been taught since we're young that the way to thrive in our system is to start a small business. Well, what small business could you start besides a smoke shop, which is why there's like 50 of them? But that's such a stupid system. That is built in to make us fight each other. Now, for white people, that's okay because they're always going to have a little bit of money. There's always going to be a place for them to land. But for First Nations people,
Yeah.
when literally one of the only things that we have is each other, a system built to make us fight each other is awful. And so that's why even my proposals of well, we could move towards a more community-based system. Even I kind of wonder, I think there are ways, and I actually do have a way to go in that direction at the community level. But that being said, how long would it take before the colonizers step in? So you can't do that.
Yeah, it's weird because what is the point of trying to do major changes if they're just going to come in and say no?
I think like some places have managed to get around it, like way out in BC, or even Six Nations. Six Nations is doing real well.
Yeah.
Can't deny that.
Well, I think there's some things that can work. Like honestly, like when you see a reserve, or as I like to call them nations, put in like when some of them have like Oneida, Wisconsin, or even the nation up north, like Barrie, that place with the Casino Rama, like they have those, and obviously those are generating money for the reserve as well. But I think the better one to look at it with that is Oneida, Wisconsin, because they have a very laid out, structured area. Like they have a lot of things that a lot of other reserves don't have, but it's because of this higher resource that is coming in and that they can use and like kind of for better. But like a lot of people don't have that option, and if you propose certain things, there's a lot of weird
I
we
think
shouldn't do it.
well, I think that's always the tough thing is how much like the moral quandary is. Like, is it really a good idea to put all our money into vices? Like, well, let's make cigarettes and that'll be good for our economy and our community. And it's like, yeah, it will, but you're selling cigarettes. Or casino, you're giving somebody a gambling habit and that kind of thing. And it's one of those I can kind of see. To me, here's my take on this is I can kind of see why people are uneasy about investing in these kind of
Businesses.
yeah, these things that have moral questions to them. But like I look at forgive me for butchering the name, but I'm pretty sure it's the Tsukina Nation way out in BC. I think on Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
They have literally one of the best thriving communities, not First Nations communities period, in the entire country. And the reason why they do is they had a casino too. And they had done really well. But they had people who could manage their economy or knew what they were doing. So then instead of taking that money and just like paying it out to themselves or whatever, they invested it in housing. They invested it in solar energy. And now the entire community is 100% renewable energy. And there's charging stations on every corner. So if you have an electric car, you don't need gasoline or anything.
Yeah.
Whereas here, we're still stuck in the Stone Ages. Everyone's trying to get money for a gas bar. That's the only thing that makes money on Oneida is cigarette smoke shops and gas bars. And, but over there, you see how advanced that is. And it's like they were somehow able to get around the system.
Well,
That's
so
built to kind of keep us.
That's a definite to look into, because yeah, like just the way we're talking, that shouldn't have happened. Not that I'm saying it shouldn't. I'm just saying technically the way the government sticks their hands into every single First Nation reservation and everything like that. Like you figure they would have stopped it some way, but
Yeah, they were able to thrive regardless.
but
And
like to go back real quick to what you said, I understand that there is a problem. People have problem like with cigarettes, alcohol, casino, like certain things, or even if you're trying to make a business out of it. But it's also the argument too that I think there's like I think that there's always good to the bad, and it's not just with those, but that'd be kind of any kind of business that you put up. Like, I can see their argument that we shouldn't do this because of this, but at the same time, it's like, well, it's just like what you just said. Like, you could either do one bigger casino that usually can hopefully get run by properly somebody who knows what they're doing, and then that kind of just like helps out, we would hope, as opposed to like so many little tinier businesses like all the little smoke shops and all the little gas bars and everything like that are just kind of like just popping up everywhere like that because people want to make a quick buck. So like, yeah, I think it would be like I said, there's always a good to the bad with every single thing, especially a business idea. But I'm just what I mean. I just would kind of think that like they would kind of hopefully would more or less lean towards some kind of business thing like that. But I can see why, like I said, what you just said, I can see why people would be kind of against it at the same time.
and so, uh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm just trying to think. There's before we get to a more controversial part. I'm just trying to say if I think we have anything else that we need to say about that. I guess not. I guess like people know where we stand. People know that there's possibilities. There is a way to kind of make the system work for us, but we just don't have um, like we're kind of trapped in this kind of line of thinking
Yeah.
that we have to make we have to work within the system rather than making it work for us. And I completely like I hate that. There's a term. um no, I don't want to get into that. I'm just rambling now. Well, let's look at it this way then. I guess this is the last thing I have to really say about this. Is the counselors themselves. Congratulations,
Yes, of course. Congratulations.
but um, I wonder how forward thinking they are, kind of a thing. Like but it's not really their fault. I don't mean to call them down. Let's put it this way. Like, if I just think that when you look at the community as a whole, I think people are kind of still stuck in this one track mind of, well, what do? We manage the money so people can start small businesses, and it's somehow going to magically change our community for the better. And that just doesn't work. That's why you need more out of the box thinking. Or you need to look at the different communities that are in similar conditions as ours,
Yeah.
and how they manage to pull themselves out economically. And not a single one of them did it because they were starting small businesses that just sold the same thing as everybody else. Like, not a single one of them did that. So I just don't know what they're gonna do to change. They seem like nice people, especially the chief.
Yeah, Jessica Hill.
Yeah, she seems like a nice person, and I wish her well. But we'll see. Like, I hope that. I mean, we'll see.
Well, I know what you're saying. I mean, I don't.
I would hope that people would just understand that it's not a nothing job. Like being a counselor shouldn't be just like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, but we'll learn as we go. Like it shouldn't be that way. Like I don't know if anybody knows this, but there's an actual school in North Bay. I can't remember the name of it at the exact moment. We'll put it in the description, but it actually has like counselor training. Like you can actually go to a course that teaches you how to be a counselor for specifically being on like the like these part of being in the election to like these reservations. So it's like there's something like that should be more implemented. And even though I know people are like well how can they but whatever, but point is like there should be a little bit more. I mean, like you wouldn't put somebody on the job that's supposed to be working a forklift and just everyone says oh he should do it and then get that person to do it and that person has no idea how to handle a forklift and could hurt themselves or anyone around them. It's the exact same thing with counselors. People shouldn't just be randomly thrown on there and expected to do something that they probably absolutely might have no idea how to do it.
I mean, I don't know. That's such a. I don't know if I agree with that 100%, but I understand it.
I just mean there should be something a little more.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because I was thinking, like, I'm perfectly fine with people who are the everyday common man kind of getting involved in politics. But at the same time, like, what have we been doing in Oneida for ever since they've been having band council elections? We've been electing people who don't know anything. And then, like, nothing winds up getting done except to the benefit of their immediates. Like, because I'm not gonna lie, we could say it right here. I'm gonna say it. And I know this isn't a popular thing to say, and I certainly wouldn't say it amongst a dominant society. But of course, we have corruption. That's right, I said it. Of course, we have corruption in some of these communities. But I think some people don't understand what that means. When they say corruption, the first thing they think of is in the movies where it's like, let's meet at a secret location. You give me a suitcase full of money, and then I get a building permit or something like that. That's not necessarily all there is to it. It's not necessarily a big theatrical thing. Sometimes it could just be like, well, I have a choice here. I can make the right decision for everyone, or I can make the right decision for me or a specific person. And sometimes when people do that, they don't understand the implications, or that is kind of that might be detrimental to the community. Like I'm not saying it absolutely is, but like it could be, and you have to look at it from all those angles. And so like we've had people who have been on band council who have been chief over the last several decades who did zero but came out wealthy. You want to tell me there's not something going on there?
Yeah, I mean,
like I'll say this right now. Let's get right into it. I'll say this right now. Does anybody remember the Green Lane dump? I'm sure everybody in Oneida does. That's why we left. That's why we moved from there.
It's like even currently right now, it is a horrible thing.
It's just the whole city of Toronto is taking a big shit right next to Oneida. That's essentially what it is. It stinks. And there's like rats all over the place and everything. And before that wasn't the case. We had clean air. You had annoying ass mosquitoes, but it was nice. It was a nice community and everything like that. And then just like every other First Nations community that has a uranium mine built next to it. Of course, we never had anything that bad, but still, Toronto garbage sucks, and it's filled with chemicals and stuff like that. And they wanted to build that next to the community. Nobody in the community wanted that. Nobody.
No, nobody.
Absolutely nobody, except the people. Except 10 people.
I think you mean 13.
Okay.
Because there's 12 counselors and a chief.
Except 13 people. You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I know.
And this what happened. What happened? Suddenly the garbage is being dumped there against the will of the people. And I went to a town council, and this is when I was young and I was too scared to not say anything. No, I absolutely would have let them have it. But like I went to a town hall that had the band counselors on there. No, it wasn't even a band. The band counselors were there, but the town hall was people from Western University who came and said we want to examine what are the uh, uh, implications that arrive from putting that Toronto garbage next to a community. And it was like a scientific study that they were doing. I think there were some some scientists from Western University.
Yep. And this is what, like maybe 8-10 years ago.
Oh yeah, maybe 10, maybe
Probably
a little longer, maybe.
Whenever exactly the dump came, right?
Yeah, it would be. Okay, maybe not 10 years in, but still, it was a while back. And so then they do this, and everybody's like, "Why are they building that dump here? I hate that they're building that dump here." Except the band counselors. They were like, "Oh no, no. The only reason why you're coughing is because you're smoking." Like I heard all kinds of this nonsensical arguments, and even I was just kind of shaking my head, and I didn't believe it then. But back then, I didn't have the, you know, I didn't speak out as much as I do now.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly would have said something, and right then and there was corruption being illustrated.
Yeah, it's true.
We all know that they suddenly pulled up with a dump truck, showed up at their house that wasn't filled with Toronto garbage, but was filled with something else from there. You know what I'm talking about? They dumped out the dump.
Someone made it rain for them. You're basically
Yeah,
saying?
they suddenly pulled up.
Different kind of green wasn't
Yeah,
like garbage
a
green.
different kind of green was dropped on their front lawn.
We could go through
Suddenly
so
they
many
got
like,
their
garbage puns with money.
Suddenly they got their deal done on paper.
Yeah.
And then and we have to understand that kind of crap goes on. But people
true.
don't want to. People don't want to acknowledge it, or they want to say, "Well, that's just the way it is." It doesn't have to be the way it is, or it's the way it is because the settler society imposed this way on us. We don't want this way on us. So I'm kind of sick of that, and I'm kind of sick of the whole let's touch this with kid gloves. Let's just call it what it is. It's a C word. Yeah, exactly.
No, it's true. Like, I don't know why people wouldn't think that wouldn't be there. I mean, I get it though. I do get it because people, and like, I mean, if we're talking about it, let's just be real about it. To say that there are people who have family that are on there and don't want to think they would do that. But that's natural. That's a natural feeling for anyone to feel that way because everyone doesn't want their family to be looked at as bad, or they don't want to believe it. Maybe even if they see it, they still won't believe it. But that's just how it is. But I'm not saying everybody that goes on there is bad.
Of course not.
Obviously there could be good people on there.
I think
we're against it.
I think even some people who go on there and they get involved in some shenanigans like that, sometimes maybe they're just thinking, well, this is just the way it is. And they don't understand that, no, that what you're doing is actually bad. Like, I think even some of the people, like what do they say? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, kind of a thing. So
Pretty awesome, yeah.
they think, maybe deep down, some of them are probably thinking like they don't mean this to be bad, but that's just the way it turned out. And what is another example? Another example, and I don't have enough data on this next one, but I got to bring it up.
Oh, snap.
Is the lumber mill. There was going to be a lumber mill that they were going to build, and it was going to be shared between Chippewa, Muncie, and Oneida. And it was going to give everybody in the communities jobs, and the profits from it was going to be split 3 ways.
Yeah.
But then I'm not exactly sure what happened. But of course, nobody could agree. Some people just think they deserved more than the other, and it didn't work out. Just whoever was in charge. That's why I wish I had it right in front of me. Who was in charge during that period?
Yeah.
Because I'd call them out right now. I have no problem saying that. You have people with giant egos. And then you know what would happen too? It wouldn't even be a situation of, no, I need to get more, I have a bigger population, and we need money for housing. It wouldn't be that. It would be like, I need money for to get a swimming pool in my backyard or something. Like, that's not, I guarantee you, it has nothing to do with actually wanting to help the people in their community. And it's like what's so annoying about that is there's so few of us that we have to be antagonistic towards Chippewas and Muncies and the like. Like I can understand if somebody had a need, like I want to help Oneida people. I don't care about anyone else. Like if they're thinking that, I don't agree with them. But if that's what they're thinking, I'm like, okay, you want to help your people, then work hard to help your people. But to be like, I want to help my people and I want to screw with them, I think that's awful. That's toxic. Like, how is that any better than what white people do? You're isolating yourself. You're isolating the community from the other communities. Like it's bad enough that it's like I say, like I can get just wanting to do your own thing for your own people, but like don't try to do it at the expense of others of your own people, like Chippewas and Muncies. We
Yeah.
need. So there's that kind of thing, and they're guilty of it too. I'm not trying to say this is an indictment.
Oh no!
of Oneida.
I mean, this isn't even just a problem between these two reservations. Obviously, like you wouldn't have to go far to the next one over. I think the closest one to us is Six Nations, or even in Sarnia, and that exact same thing's going on. Where even if they're not close nearby, there's still something they're doing because they do have like the Chiefs of Ontario, and even that's something of a different issue to get on. Totally different thing to talk about at a different time. But
actually, I think we should talk about that in a little bit, not like a little later. I do want to talk about that because I think that does matter in a big way.
Yeah.
Do we say anything? Everything we had to say about this?
I mean, like I don't know. Like I know what you're saying, and that is an issue. I think it comes up a lot, and it's just something a lot of people aren't. And that's the thing too is. I know people know this topic. They know these things we're talking about. But it's like most of society today, and even our own people are guilty of it like everyone else. Because it doesn't concern them personally, they don't want to get into it. Can it affect me? Possibly. I don't want to get into it. Can it affect me and it won't have nothing to do with me? Yeah, but I won't get into it. You know what I mean? Like, they just don't want to face it and just like talk about it to get into like everything else. They want people will ignore this because it can cause issues. And I understand nobody wants to cause issues, but sometimes you need to really talk about something that people aren't really, they're not talking about.
We've been so trained, I think.
To turn the other way.
No, to be individualists.
True.
To say that like I only care about what affects me.
Yep.
And me alone.
Yep.
And people need to understand that's a completely Judeo-Christian colonialist mindset that's been imposed on us. Before it was always, I gotta do this because this concerns the community. That's how we used to think way back in the day. And then now it's like, well, does this concern me at all? And people think if I just ignore racism in this country, if I just go with the flow, if I just try to be a capitalist and make money and just kind of try to do my own thing, none of that will affect you. Then you get your wake-up call eventually. Everybody does. And then suddenly, what are you going to do when all those native people you've been telling, there's no racism, or calm down, let's pray together instead of actually doing something. What happens when something finally happens to you and you have to confront it full on? That's why it's
important.
It is important to talk about these things, and too many people don't want to because we've had that kind of mindset imposed upon us, that objectivism kind of crap where it's all just greed is good, selfishness is good, and all that kind of crap like that, and that's nonsense, and that's been completely detrimental to our people. It's splintered us even further away, not just amongst communities, but in the communities.
Yeah, because I remember, it's even in their teachings that everyone's supposed to be there for each other, like everybody, but like you really don't ever see that at all, because everybody wants to have an issue with everybody. And I say that as it said, everybody wants to have an issue with everybody, and I don't understand. I don't understand why, but like that's just really which kind of what you just summed up is what like a lot of people feel like now. Because like I know some people will say, "Oh well, I'm for the community." Well, no, not if you like don't. Not if you have a handful of people you don't want. Like, oh, but I wouldn't help them. That's not helping the community. Like to be open minded to help everyone is to help everyone. You can't say, "Oh, I'm for the community. I'm for this. I'm for that," and then like except that family or except that person. Like, I would never help. Then that's not because you're excluding one person that's still part of the community, meaning you're not for the community. It's just like I said. It's just something I think a lot of people tend to do a lot of.
Yeah, completely, completely. I think the Chiefs of Ontario is like directly
Responsible.
is related
Related.
to what we're talking about here, like
Yeah.
in every way, and I think uh this is something that I need to investigate a little bit more. But it's always kind of been my understanding. It goes back to what I said earlier about how things are built. You have all of these groups in Ontario, like Chiefs of Ontario and many among others, like there are many others,
Yeah.
like there are many alliances and little mini groups and subgroups and that kind of thing in Ontario, and they're always fighting each other. And that's kind of totally meant to be that way. Like you look at unions in Canada, and unions were strong, like they were incredibly strong force that fought well, their main purpose was to fight the capitalists, but then you ended up kind of getting union bosses and stuff that wound up just settling. It became about settling, and then that sort of weakness allowed them to be splintered, and that's why unions aren't as strong as they used to be, or they're all consolidating into just bigger, bland, faceless unions that can have their kind of corporate tool at the leadership.
Yeah.
And so, like, but before that, like up until the Mike Harris years, you had huge unions in Ontario. Now you're kind of seeing that it's all just about getting what they can out of it. And it's the same thing with First Nations people. Like we're all splintered into these subgroups that are all fighting over pennies. When if we all work together, we could be fighting them for dollars. But no, it's like let's just fight. Let's just stab each other in the back. Let's just like argue with each other, so I can get a few more cents.
Hmm.
And it's pathetic, I think. And it's even more so like it's pretty disgusting. And I think a major part of that, no, I know a major part of that is the residential school stuff. And what we talked about earlier, how they tried to put that individualist kind of mindset into us to kind of prevent us from working together. That's what they teach you in school. That's what they teach you in school. You work hard in Canada, then you'll be you too can be at the top, and it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way in any capitalist country. It's all about whoever has the most money right from the beginning, and then their children will inherit that wealth. And then their children will inherit that wealth. And the people who are poor will continue to be poor. And then they make the system so that the people who are wealthy can keep their wealth. Like call it wealth. Keep their money. And they don't have to spend it on healthcare or anything like that. It's these things that are all kind of interconnected and linked together that we don't think enough about. And that kind of goes back to what I said about the individualist mindset. The idea of, well, what's the topic that directly affects me? And then I talk about, well, then you kind of look at unions, you look at the environment, you look at wealth inequality, and people are like, I don't care about any of that stuff. When you can talk about native stuff, it's like, that is all native stuff. And
it's true.
That's what we have to start understanding is a lot of the problems in society that are across the board affect us the most. First and foremost, I will say that. We are affected the most when they talk about indigent communities in Canada. That's First Nations. You know, and that's only First Nations. And so that's what we have to understand. That when you look at the complete and total system, and like we have to work to change that.
Yeah.
And we do that, we improve a lot for all First Nations people. Like that's really the only way that it's going to work is if we all work together. And I don't see anybody. I don't see anybody. I see very few people kind of picking up on this. And I understand it. Like I'm not calling them down. I just think a lot of them either really just don't think about this, or yeah, like that's just it. They just really don't think about this, or think it doesn't concern them, so they don't bother trying to pursue
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So it's a shame that we didn't get in.
So it leads back to this.
Yeah, you know, so that we couldn't kind of bring a lot of these ideas. But hopefully, the council that's in there, the chief that's in there, will be receptive to these type of ideas, and maybe we can bring them to them. And anybody listening to this, that's what they need to understand: is you have to talk to your counselor, you have to talk to your chief, and you have to say, "This is what I want. This is what we need. This is what would be good for the community." And then the more you work together, the more you can kind of make them say, well, a lot of people seem to want it, so we'll do it.
No, I know what you mean. I know, but
Now granted, you know, it'd be nice if we had our own our own system of government.
yeah.
You know, like we still have our traditional councils, but you know, they were kind of rendered you know, like it's that's a whole nother topic, because that's another thing that we need to be looking at more too. I do think that there is a lot of that placing the band council against the traditional councils, and that's
true.
That's not really good, but that's essentially what the system calls for.
That's
And
what they
it
know,
keeps us
right?
fighting. That's the whole point of all this that people need to understand, is that, you know, like the more we fight each other as First Nations people, the more the colonizers can steal from us. The more the settler society thrives at our expense. And it's like, until we recognize that and reconcile with each other, then we're going to be left in the dust. Or we're going to continue to let them stab us in the back while they build us pipelines and call that reconciliation.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
And it all goes, and I think this, like, and people are saying, like, well, they're going all over the place. No. See, the band council is kind of, I think, a representation of all of these ideas. Like, not, like, just the concept of this band council, I think, is a representation of all of these things that we're talking about here. So I'm not saying anything personal to the people in there. They're probably very nice people,
Yeah. Yeah.
for all I know. And hopefully they do right by the people. But they're going to be the ones that take up leadership roles, and they're the ones that are going to be the most scrutinized. And they need to understand that it's their responsibility to kind of bring all of this together. But unfortunately, well, hopefully they do well. I'll say that. Hopefully they
Yeah.
do well.
Yeah. That's something I'm hoping to as well. So is that all your isms you want to bring in?
How long is it going?
It's about 43 minutes.
That's okay. All right, we'll stop here, I guess. Unless you have anything else to say.
Well, no. Still do this to everybody. So every time I bring somebody on, I always ask, is there something that you recommend that everybody should be getting, or should get into, should read, listen to, watch, whatever, that nobody's into?
Well, I got a book here.
So it just so happens this book
Yeah,
appeared.
I have the book here. I think this is going to be very controversial. Uh, I do think that we need to read more um, from people who have been under similar conditions to First Nations people, uh, or you know or they've seen situations like you have absolute like obviously uh, poor First Nations people or First Nations people in poverty is a completely different situation from poor people in Europe in the 1800s.
Yep.
But the answers sometimes are the same. And, you know, and even if it's not all similar, because not everything is all similar, there's still some stuff that we can gain from looking at history. And I think we need to read a lot more. We just need to read a lot more books, I think. Like, I think that's one thing that we need to read. And I don't necessarily mean Harry Potter or Twilight or Aragon. Not that there's anything wrong with those. They stimulate the imagination. But I think, I'm going to say, you know, I'm just going to say it right now. There's going to be a clip played against me in the future. We need to read Karl Marx. And a lot of people who have been influenced by Marx, like David Harvey, Vladimir Lenin, and stuff like that. You know, people like that, and even reading stuff like General Smedley Buckler, I think his name is Butler. War is a Racket. You know, like we need to read a lot more of that kind of stuff to understand why we are where we are, and why things are, and how we can kind of move forward as a people.
Yeah.
You know, that's just what I would say.
So just kind of reading more.
Yeah, just read a lot more books and read stuff like that.
Like a lot more, yeah. Like I get what you're
Yeah,
saying.
like-
Yeah,
like, 'cause
if you're wondering why a reservation is the way it is, and you find that it is poverty, then it'd be good to actually like look into stuff that's similar to it. Even though, like what you said, it's not exactly the same, but they have similar things to it that would make them kind of the same, that you can kind of sympathize and see what they went through, or what they've done to get out of it, or how they work together to do something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and there's other authors too that I would suggest. But yeah, just read a lot more. That's all I'd say. That's all I suggest to people is read a lot more.
All right, so there you go. Read a lot more. Well then, any final words, final thoughts, Diggy Douglas, Bag of Waggles?
I still think it's worthwhile to vote. Even though I've said everything I have said, and I stand by my words, I think it's worthwhile to vote. It's fun. You can even look at it as a game.
I get what you're saying. It's one of those, whether you, I'll just say it, because I'm gonna do it, with bunny ears. Don't believe in voting or not. It's going to happen whether you want it or not, or whether you don't think about it. Or not.
Politics
So,
affects you no matter what. You know, like it's always going to affect you. So you might as well try to change or alter the effect, or minimize the impact, or whatever the case may be. It doesn't make you any less of a First Nations person. You know, what makes you a First Nations person is your beliefs, your spirituality, it's your language and your culture.
Yeah, like I think everyone should be reminded that a card does not make you native.
Yeah.
So don't try to act like there's a status, because a status is you, like who you are, like by virtue of who you are, in your mind and in your heart and everything. Like not just because like someone hands you a piece of plastic and says, "Here's your Indian card."
Yeah. And because
like,
I may
yeah.
never be on the podcast again, I just want to say this: like you, as First Nations people, need to know this one simple truth. Like. About no amount of groveling, no amount of being a tonto, no amount of being the white man's wooden Indian or being their what do they call those people that kind of show them the way?
Oh, like
Their
a
guide or
guide?
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever the case may be. No amount of of any of that is going to save you from racism or white supremacy. And I hate to say this, but there's a lot of terrifying things that suggest to me that it's going to get worse, especially after those kids were all killed this past year, Tina Fontaine and Colton Bushy, and the white people who killed them, who murdered them, were let off scot-free, even though the judge acknowledged, yeah, they did it, but it's okay. So you have to understand, Native people who listen to this, that it's going to affect you no matter what, and to be ready for that. So,
Alright, well, I guess that's all for now then. Your final words?
yeah, well, hopefully not my final words. Like, I don't walk out here and get shot by a white guy or something.
Like, you don't get Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a gun. Woo! Alright then. So that's all for this episode then. And I'm Degani Anton.
And I'm Snow His Anton. Make sure you read What Is to Be Done by Vladimir Lenin.
Okay. And that's all for now. Alright everybody, we'll see you next time on the Get Ready podcast.
Okay.
Fantastic episode. Hope everyone loved that. And don't forget, if you want to be on the podcast, just get a hold of me at GetReady and send me an email at getready@gmail.com. That's getready with 2 R's at gmail.com. Just to get a hold of me, and then we can work out all the details. I plan to have more episodes up as usual, and I'm working hard to make sure everybody gets those episodes. So I'm hoping everyone had a good time, and I hope that gives you something to think about. Whether it was the episode, whether it was just maybe you want some catering done, I also do catering as well. Hit me up at the same email to get it to me. Or even just give me a call or a text at 226-998-7787. That's 226-998-7787 to get a hold of me for catering even. I would be more than happy to work out the details and have some catering events with you done at anything you want. Whether that be down to 10 people or to 200 or even more, I can do it all. I hope everyone had a good time with this episode, and like I said, it was a great time making it. And it's always a pleasure to have my brother on, because it's always fantastic to really get a hold of a idea that nobody really discusses or talks about. So like I said, it was great to have Snow on as usual, and right now he is the 3-peat champion, meaning he's been on 3 times more than anybody, so someday maybe somebody will beat him at that record. Anyways, I hope you had a fun time listening to this one, as much as I did making it. Alright, and that is all. I will see everybody next time on the next episode of Get Ready.